The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." He replied to him, "Friend, who appointed me as your judge and arbitrator?" Then he said to the crowd, "Take care to guard against all greed, for though one may be rich, one's life does not consist of possessions." Then he told them a parable. There was a rich man whose land produced a bountiful harvest. He asked himself, "What shall I do? For I do not have space to store my harvest." And he said, "This is what I shall do. I shall tear down my barns and build larger ones. There I shall store all my grain and other goods. And I shall say to myself, 'Now as for you, you have so many good things stored up for many years. Rest, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this night your life will be demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, to whom will they belong?' Thus will it be for all who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich in what matters to God." The Gospel of the Lord.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Father Kerry Prendiville of the Diocese of Rapid City in western South Dakota. And through the goodness of the Society of the Propagation of Faith and its director here in Arlington, and at the request of Father Saunders and kind hospitality, Father Schierer, I'm here this weekend to share with you the story of our mission. One of the things that happened to me when I was a very young priest, I was sent to the Standing Rock Reservation in the northern part of our diocese, the home of Sitting Bull. And after about a year there, I had had 3 funerals for one extended family, some very tragic, others, more appropriate to their time. At the end of a funeral service, they have a great feed and a giveaway. At that giveaway, they gave me a beautiful horsehair braided bridle, leather and horsehair. It was a very beautiful gift, and I thanked them for it, but I said, "I don't have a horse." And they said, "Well, we couldn't bring the horse inside here, Father." So now I had a horse. I grew up on a small ranch in western South Dakota, so I didn't know what to do with a horse, but it really wasn't conducive to my lifestyle at this time. Brothers and sisters, this story I've related to you tells you something about their culture, that one of their great values is generosity. And because of that generosity, it reminds me of today's gospel. We should store up things for ourselves in heaven, things that really matter to God. In these days and years of the new evangelization, the gospel so much becomes a part of our life that we desire to share it with others. It's always been the apostolic nature of our church that we do so. In western South Dakota, our diocese is about the size of Ireland. We have 27,000 Catholics. Probably 60% of the people in our diocese are unchurched. And so we have much to do as part of our mission. When the church came first to this area, it was brought by the Blackrobes, the Jesuit priests. Pierre de Schmet and others came up the Missouri River, and they catechized and evangelized people along the river at the different trading posts. and among them the native people, the Lakota Sioux and the Oglala Sioux. As we brought the gospel to them, they received it readily because forever they had been calling God Tunkashala, or grandfather. And they desired, as we all do, to have a deeper and more intimate relationship with God. And so they knew then that they could call God Jesus by his name. And they received Jesus because he embodied in his life another one of their core values, which is courage. They believed that because he had the courage to die for the sins of his people and for all people to come, that he should be followed. He should be received, and they received him with a great heart. And so the leaders of the people like Chief Red Cloud or Black Elk, and many others, when they became Catholic, they also became lay catechists, and they brought the faith to their villages. And so all throughout South Dakota, the knowledge of the black robes spread. And even though other reservations had been given by the federal government to the Episcopals or to the Presbyterians or other groups, they all asked for the black robes, the Catholics, to come and teach their children in the ways of faith. Brothers and sisters, from that very beginning, they had always had much to offer the church. Today, when the church goes into any area as mission, they have a saying that they've brought from the scriptures. They say, "Take off your shoes, because the ground you stand on is holy." And so the church seeks to honor the culture of the people and to understand it, and then bring the gospel to purify parts of that culture which need to be purified. We know well today that part of the new evangelization will be the purification of our own culture here, to be able to understand what the gospel means when it says, "Store up riches for yourselves in heaven," to be able to embody more the spirit and the heart of Jesus Christ. In 1988, when I first became a pastor on the reservation, our then Bishop Charles began a process to dialogue with the native peoples about their traditional religious prayer customs. And in that dialogue, he also sought to enculturate the church liturgy where possible by accepting their practices of prayer into it. One of the things that became part of the Catholic liturgy was their practice of smudging. They would have a small coal or a fire, and they would burn sage from the prairie or the sweetgrass from the prairie and waft it with the eagle feather. And we realized to honor that only the Native Americans could use the eagle feather to waft the sage or the sweetgrass. And when they did, they would purify a place and purify a people to begin the prayer of the Mass or some other service. So when they came to you, you'd receive it by pulling the smoke over your head, and in that way you would yourself be prepared for prayer. I think I smell something from the smudging, but it's not the sage or the sweetgrass this morning. Another practice is the inipi, or you may know it as the sweat lodge. They take superheated stones and they enter into a small tarp-covered tent or buffalo hide-covered tent. And when the intense steam develops and you begin to sweat, the prayer leader leads you in prayers for the purification of your body, your mind, and your soul. And they'll use the sweat in times when they want to get off alcohol or drugs, or when a young person is going away to the military, or when someone is being ready to graduate from college or get married. And because of that practice, when the impurities return to Maka'ena, Mother Earth, they feel well prepared and disposed for the holy. There are many other practices as well. The Church has received some and asked Native Catholics not to participate in others. But when they receive this way of prayer and embrace it in its universal grasp, the Church becomes even more Catholic and can respond even more effectively to every person of every culture. The bishop who started that in our diocese and in the United States is now Archbishop Chaput of Philadelphia. He's a member of the Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation from Kansas. So he's done very well for himself. My brothers and sisters, one thing we do not have in our diocese are the kind of resources to really help further our mission. We have 5 Native American reservations in our diocese. As I mentioned, very few Catholics, but also in the years that we've been a diocese, we have changed in one thing, that now almost all of our priests and seminarians are coming from our own diocese. And so we've become, from a mission church, in this one aspect at least, a church with a mission. And we have one of the youngest presbyterates in the United States. Because of the great number of poor people on the Native American reservations, we don't have resources to really support our priests or our mission. And so I invite you today to become a part by your prayers, number one, and by a special gift that you give after communion in the second collection. As we celebrate today our Catholic faith, we remember that all of us are one in one body in Christ. And I would leave you with this greeting from the Native American people and from all people in our diocese. They would say, "Mitakie oyasin," which means we are all related. I want to thank you for your kindness and thank you in advance for your gift. God bless you.